Okay, so in the last part of the tutorial I left you with the ability to click on an album but not the ability to see what was in it. So this is what's going to go inside this else statement. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off again with a check. In fact, not again, because we didn't check anything in the first place, but what we're doing here is we're checking security wise. Now, security is obviously important when you're creating something like this that's dealing with file directories and get variables, because obviously there's similar to SQL injection. It's not SQL injection, but there are ways to enter data specifically to work your way around file directories. So we need a long check, well, not long, but long check to cancel out any of this need. Also to see if anyone enters an album name, let's say enters an album name here that's wrong, we're going to want to say to the user that album doesn't exist, because they might have, say, saved it in their favorites, it might be in their internet history. They might go back to it and it might say this album doesn't exist anymore, instead of bringing up an error or anything like that. So the first thing we want to do is check if our album is a directory. If it's not a directory, it doesn't exist. So we're using the same thing, is dir, and we're using the same inside as well. We've got the base, which is the data folder, and then that's a /, and then we're going into get album. This is the album name. So the base file is data. Then we're checking if each individual album, or the album that has been selected rather, specified in the get variable in the browser, does exist. So let's just give this a check. If it doesn't exist, echo album doesn't exist. Okay, so let's go into here. We're going to click album 1. Nothing happens. This basically means that it does exist, because when we go to change this album name to say album 4, which doesn't exist, we get a message saying album doesn't exist. Nothing else is happening if the album does exist, so we know that as long as it says doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. Okay, so this isn't the only check that we need. I'm going to create a bigger block here, because we're going to obviously have a lot more code inside it. We're moving on to a function str, and this is basically going to check whether a string is inside a string. So instead of using and, we're using or, because we need to check each one of these. One might be valid, one might be valid, one might be not, blah blah blah, you never know. So we are using str, and what we're going to do is we're going to get album. Now this is going to be called the haystack, and a comma and a dot, and this is the needle. So we're searching for a needle inside a haystack. These are just typical ways of explaining it through PHP if you visit the PHP manual. And doesn't equal null. So when we find this dot somewhere inside get album, if we do find it, it will return us a value. So 1, 2, or 0, 1, 0 if it's the first character, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to however many characters. If it's not found, it will equal null. So if it doesn't equal null, then it means it has been found. So we'll just check this out as well. Just make sure everything's okay. Yep. Okay, so album doesn't exist. 4 does not exist. Now let's check if we can go back a directory. Album doesn't exist. Now otherwise, let's just take this out. Oh no, we've still got the or in there. Okay, So otherwise, oh well, okay, this check will only work obviously if we are then echoing out the file contents, but what I'll do is I'll keep these in here for now, and then later on we can take them out and I can show you how it can be vulnerable if I actually remember. But otherwise, take them out for yourself when you finish the code and see how you can actually use directory structure standards to go back and look at other files in other directories. So we could use this and go right the way back, say to the root of the web directory. Yeah, so pretty dangerous. You don't want people looking at everything on here. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to be typically lazy, and we're going to copy this, and we're going to say /. We don't want a / to be used. Again, we're going to be lazy, we're going to paste that in, and we don't want a / to be used. Now you can see as I've typed a / all this has gone to a brown color. This is because, like I said before, this character will allow use of characters that wouldn't usually be allowed. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop another one in there, and this just sort of cancels out the effect of that, and we've returned to our normal color inside context. We know that everything's okay. Obviously we'll come in and test it anyway. So now what we've got is dots, /, we could stick a / in there as well, and press enter, and album doesn't exist. Let's just test them individually as well. So we've got a /, album doesn't exist, /, album doesn't exist. So for a security measure, we're just saying album doesn't exist. If these characters are tried to be used to manipulate directories and go back a directory, then we're just saying album doesn't exist, because that is the album variable that we are entering at, well, that we are having an album put into. So we're just going to say album doesn't exist. Now otherwise, if this has been passed, or you know, if we do pass this and all of these have led us to our else statement, then we're going to carry on displaying out our data, so our images inside. Now what we want to do is, the first thing is to echo out the album name, and we're going to put this in bold just to keep somewhat consistency in our design. And this is basically going to be get_album, so the name of the get variable, and then we're going to put a paragraph break on the end of that. So we can test this already. If we click on album 1, we're left with album 1, got album 1 up there, album 2, same, album 2, and album 3, as well as now any new album we create. So I'm just going to call this new. There's nothing in it at the moment. I'm going to refresh, and we've got our new album pop up. We can click on that, and it's worked. So this is how easy it is to, once you've created the code, how easy it is to create new albums and swap photos around, things like that. So we've got our introduction to our album, our title to our album, and now what we're going to do is we're going to open up our this directory. So we're using handle once again, and this is going to be exactly the same code, open dir, so we're opening our directory, and this is going to be base this time, and then /, so this is slightly different to last time, and get album. The reason for this is because we're not opening our base on its own, we're opening our base / our album. So we're opening base, which is called data, and then we're opening the album that has been clicked on, and the album that has been clicked on is $get_album. So we've created our handle, and again we create our while loop, and we're going to do exactly the same thing, and we're going to say while file equals read directory, so read dir, and we're reading the handle as before, and doesn't equal false. Notice I'm using the double equals as well, and we're going to open up our block here, and inside our block we need to well, let me just show you what we're going to do with file on its own. We did this before. I've already shown this, how we're going to echo out our file here from our reading our directory. We can check if it works first. So I've refreshed. I'm going to click on album 1, and you can see now that we've got just ones all the way down. This is not what we want, so back to our code. Okay, so I'm going to coat these in more parentheses as we're assigning and then using a check. So I'm going to completely mess that up. Let's refresh, and now we've got our image names. So something as simple as that can produce such a wild result. This is what I get asked about a lot, so make sure you check your code really well and think logically about what's being checked where. See, even I just missed it. Okay, so now we've got the same problem. These two are not images, these are directory standard bits of structure. This is the current directory, this is one directory back. We don't want to display these, so instead of echoing out our file just yet, we're going to use an if statement to say if file doesn't equal a dot and file doesn't equal 2 dots. Create our block, re-echo out our file names with a break on the end. Okay, so we've just said if file, this is similar to up here, doesn't equal dot and doesn't equal dot dot. Let's go down again. So we've done exactly the same thing, iterated our code there a bit, refresh, and they've gone. So we've just got our picture names. Now it's easy to now think, well, I've got the image names, so all I need to do now is coat these with an image source. In fact, let's get rid of this completely, we can start this again. So we've got image source equals something. Let's pop file in there, pop a break on the end, and we've got our images, except we haven't, because we need to think carefully about our file structure. And basically this is base / either the album name or the thumbnail that we're creating, and in this case we're showing the thumbnails first. So I'm going to use thumb / file. So this is perfectly acceptable now. If we refresh, in fact it might not be acceptable. Let's just double check it. Yeah, so pretty obvious what I've done. Thumbs. Okay, so we come to our page and we refresh. There we are. This is the two thumbnails that we have inside our thumbs folder. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to set a height and a width to keep the see, I've already used double quotes, we need single quotes. Height and a width, we need to keep it consistent. I'm using height 100 and width 100, just to keep this exactly the same size, small, easy to see. They're a bit distorted, but obviously it's your choice how you set these up. And then what I'm going to do, or you could actually get rid of the height and width altogether. You could just have them as the thumbnails, but it's totally up to you. Okay, now we've got this, and we need to create a hyperlink to our our Lightbox. So this is very, very easy. href equals something, and at the end we're ending our a, and this is going to link to our actual picture now. So we just need to say base, which is our data file here. So follow it through if it's hard for you to understand. Let's say we're going to go for album 1. This variable is called base, which is the name of the data. Just show you up here, base data. And then we're looking at, say, album 1, which is called get album. So we need to say / get album. And once we've come into our album, this is a file, this is a file, so it's variable file. Okay, so if we come back here and refresh, they're hyperlinked. If we click, it opens up a file. So this is obviously isn't LightBox, you know, activated yet, but it will work in a minute. So we've got our hyperlink, and now we just need to open it up in LightBox. Now, like I said before, we need to use our head to create our script. Just as if you were writing a JavaScript document, we need script type equals text / JavaScript. Okay, we're going to end the script, and basically this source is already inside our root directory of this folder, which is lightbox.js. So let's go have a look at that. It's just there. This is downloadable from the LightBox website, so just Google for LightBox and you will find that. You can use LightBox 2.0, but I have only used the first version, the original, just to keep things simple for this tutorial. So it's up to you how you use it. That's it. Okay, so now what we need to do is for our hyperlink, we need to say ref equals lightbox. Again, I've used double quotes by accident, single quotes, and not ref, rel. Okay, so that now will open in LightBox. Let's refresh and click, and you can see that's opened in LightBox, and I've customized it so it will only show the image and it won't blank out any of the background, and we don't have the little X cross up the top or any of the text, just for the simplicity of this. Just I thought it matched the functionality and design well. So yeah, so that's basically it. We've got a picture there, and it just all works well. So we can do this for any one of our albums. At the moment we've only broken down to a new line, so you know, it's not really very pretty looking. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to add these into a table, and I'm going to do this all on one line to be very awkward. Start our table, tr, we start our row, and then we start our column. We go to the end, we end our column, we end our row, we end our table. That's pretty much all we need to do, except we need to add a style element to this table to keep it aligned all in one. Now if I was to, what I'm going to do anyway is take away this break. If I was to just keep this table as it was, and we haven't put any style elements in there yet, you can see that it doesn't really make a difference. It adds this nice gap in between, but we could do that other means. What we want to do is stack them along. So back into context, this is basically done with display and then inline. Refresh, that displays them all in line. If we were going down to the next next row, which I'm going to show you how to do in a minute, then that's pretty much all nicely, neatly lined out for you. Okay, so now the thing with this is if we're using this inside a design, displaying inline will push your design along. If you're using tables, it will push your design along, and it's not nice, and we want it to be customizable, so we can have, say, 2 in each column. So it would be these 2 pictures here, then it would be these 2 down here, and then it would be this one underneath them too. So we can customize how we want it to display, and the way we do that is with the variable we created earlier called column. And if we go down, we can actually do this inside around this table, before and after each image. What I'm going to do first of all is above here I'm going to just create or assign the value 0 to a new variable called x. And the reason for this, we're starting at 0, but then we're going to count up to the amount of columns that we've been specified. And all we're doing for this is underneath our table, so underneath what we've written or displayed to the user, we want to do x++, with a colon. semicolon, sorry. Now this is the same as x equals x plus 1, as I'm sure some of you may or may not know, but I'm using x plus plus just to keep things simple. Now we're going to use an if statement. So if x equals column, so remember what we're doing is we're echoing more than one photo. This will be iterated, in this case, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So after each one we put x up. So first x is 0, then x is 1, we come round, we echo out the next image, x is 2, we echo out the next image, x is 3, next one x is 4, and the next one x is 5. So when we get to the 5th image we want to start a new line. So when x equals column, which is 5, when x equals the column limit, you could probably guess, echo out a break. So we're breaking down. What we also need to do here, we're going to create a bigger block so we can put our code in, is set x to 0. So this is reset itself. So then when it gets to the end of the next row, it can then cut it off, create a break, and come back down. Now take a while to think about this concept because it's quite hard to understand, but I'm sure in time you will understand that. Okay, so we're going to test this. At the moment it's pretty pointless. If we refresh, okay, so something's gone wrong. Let's just check back here. Okay, yeah, so if x equals column, that's assigning a value, that's not comparing a value. Remember we use a double equals, or a triple equals in some cases, but a double equals here to compare x to column. Let's check this out, refresh. Okay, so we're back where we started, but the reason for this is we have a limit of 5. There's 5 images, so there's no way that we can test if the next image is going to start into a new row. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to change this to 4. I'm going to refresh, and you can see that we've got a maximum column of 4, and the next one's gone down there, again with a nice gap in between. Let's change this back to 3. Okay, so we've got 3, 1, then 1, 2. Same with 2. Refresh, 2, 2, 1. So it's pushing everything down. Like I said, if you've got small content areas to abide by, then this is perfect. But for now we're going to keep it at 4, I think. Okay, so one thing that I've forgotten in each instance of our opening our directory is closing the directory after we're done. And we do this just by close dir and handle, because that's how we've opened our file. This is how we're closing it. And we'll come down and do this under here as well. Let's just look for where we want it to be. It will be underneath this red one here. Let's just turn red. Close dir handle. Okay, so I'm just going to check that our script is working properly. Click yep. We need a back button here. It's not the most important thing, but obviously if you want one, that's fine. So I'm going to echo out first of all a paragraph break just so we can come down a bit, and then we're creating a hyperlink. I'm going to say back to albums, and now this is going to go back to page, because this is the page where it's going to be embedded. Like I said before, we're not going back to album.php, or we're going to cut back. We're going to cut the user from the design it's been embedded to into the raw album.php. Try changing this to album.php and seeing what it does when we embed it into this design a bit later. Just try that for yourselves. Anyway, we've got our back to albums now, so we can come back. Oh, and we've got one there as well. That's silly because obviously this needs to be inside my if statement to say if a directory or an album has been clicked. So we can retest that. That's gone. Click on an album. We can show a picture. We can go back to an album, click on the next album, show a picture, back again, album 3, we've just got this image, and we can click. Now, like I said before, the beauty of this is that you can swap images around. You will have to create the thumbnails manually. You'll have to create smaller images of the bigger images. Make sure the names are exactly the same format, and you can swap these images around like mad. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to paste it into album 3, and I'm going to refresh, and there it is. And if we go back, it's gone from album 2. So yeah, it's pretty neat. So embedding this into another design. By the way, that's our album complete. The security aspect of it's complete. It's working well. If you do notice anything wrong with it, please do get in touch with me in the comments, because I have noticed before that after I've created a tutorial, things have been wrong, so I'd appreciate that. Now I'm just going to simply show you how you can embed it into a design. So we're using a standard HTML setup. Don't be silly about this. A body, a head, you stick a title in there if you want, but our body at the moment, we're going to have a table, and the table width, you can really set this to anything, 600. We're going to align it in the center of the screen, and we're going to have a border of 0. We're going to have a cell padding of 10. This just pad out the inner content a bit more, and I'm selecting a background color of EF, so it's like a light grey color. Okay, so now we are going to set up our row, and we're just having one column, so this is just one area inside a table, nothing special. Now this is our design. This is what we're going to use, and we're going to embed. My album will go here. Let's go to our index page. My album will go here. This is our design, our lovely intricate design. We want to just insert our album there. We just want to put it in. No matter what you've got on this page, you can embed this inside of it. So all we need to do is open up PHP tags. This is why I've got this as a PHP file. I'm going to include album.php. Now refresh, select an album, album 1, back to albums, album 3. So we've created an external design and implemented our single PHP file inside of this, and that's basically the simple photo album tutorial over with. If you enjoyed this, or if you would like to know more about PHP, obviously subscribe. You will receive email updates if that's what your settings allow, and it also does help me out a lot, and it supports me. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will be creating some more soon, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much, guys.